here we talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our national landscape and how all these affect us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita, and today on the show, Sunday Igboho floors federal government gets 20 billion naira aggravated damages over attack on his Ibadan residence by the operatives of the dissects. We'll be examining all sides to this story as our first topic for discussion. Also, outrage as President Buhari seeks to borrow another $4 billion and 710 million euros. Well, in the course of the program, we'll take your questions. Remember, that's very, very dear to us. But first, subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel, and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Babajide, welcome to your show.
Good evening, Ibrahim Shita. Good evening, viewers.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, let's start by that's what the court ordered the DSS to pay the Yoruba Nation activist Sunday Igboho, Sunday Adeyemo, also known as Sunday Igboho, as damages for the invasion of his residence. Did you see this coming, BQ?
Honestly, I didn't even expect that judgment will come so soon. You know, because of the whimsical nature of a judicial process in our country. So I didn't expect this judgment to come this soon. But the truth is, the actions taken by the DSS have made this judgment to not come to me as a surprise. I do not know how anyone, any right-thinking person would be able to defend the actions of our secret police on the day. And their conduct on the day was described by Justice Ladiran Akintola as illegal aggression. It described it as the action as reprehensible. The video, if you are privileged to watch the video of what transpired on the day, you would not be surprised that the judge had harsh words for the DSS and its agents. In fact, the judge said, in the absence of any evidence that Nigeria was at war, the style and procedure adopted by the second and third respondents and their agents in this case is highly undesirable, reprehensible, crude, and most unprofessional. Especially given the fact that the suspect had not been pronounced guilty by any court of law in Nigeria for any crime whatsoever. Don't forget that lives were lost during that raid. And we saw blood splattered on the floor. An individual was dragged. You know, it was most irresponsible to conduct a raid in that manner, because we are a democratic nation and we like Nigeria to be described as one of the civilized countries of the world. But when actions that put us to shame, as this one, are borne in mind, then people will wonder what really is going on in our country. Is this really a democracy? So the judge was not convinced that the actions taken by the DSS were necessary, given in his view that we were not at war as a country. You don't break into the home of a person at night, start shooting, start terrorizing his family, and even killing people without any evidence that they fired at you. I see that the Lagos State government stipulations. So, in a country where the rule of law is respected, the sort of things that the DSS did in Sunday Igboho's house would be condemned and would not be tolerated by the court. And of course, Sunday's lawyers argued that the action of the DSS was in contravention of section 33 to 46 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and the relevant articles of the African Charter of Human and People's Rights. So, clearly, given the evidence laid before the judge had no option. I know that the Attorney General has appealed the judgment, but it will be interesting to see how the federal authorities, how the DSS and the Attorney General will marshal their case and try to convince the upper courts that their action on the day was lawful, that their actions on the day were consistent with the dictates of our laws. So right. The ball is in the court of the Attorney General at this time.
Right, that brings me to the second question, and I'll be asking that with the question from Fabian Akaize. Because my question is, well, the federal government has said it will appeal the judgment of the Oyo State High Court, which awarded 20 billion in damages in favor of Mr. Sunday. Mr. Igboho's counsel, said this is a matter involving the death of some person, saying appealing such case could or would be insensitive. I'll be asking whether you share the same view, alongside the question from Mr. Fabian Akaize, who is trying to see whether the federal government would comply.
Yeah, they have no choice. We have no choice than to comply. The truth is, when you bear in mind the behavior of the security agents on that day, the willful destruction of property within his residence, how do you explain just simply destroying vehicles that you found in his premises? How do you describe that? Just everything on site. There's no way that can be justified. Get hold of the target. Take him into custody. You don't have to destroy things that you found in his home. You see, that is why sometimes we see the army, they get start saying like they start beating them up to the point that they need to latch upon people. The Americans have cited the Nigerians saying used against civilians.
Wow, looks like we're having a bit of a glitch. Babajide, can you hear me, Babajide?
Simply destroying what people fail to realize. When people go to court, you are not likely to win. When the person, to court, And the federal government
goodness me, we seem to be having a bit of
the law.
network
No one,
glitch.
whether the law.
Can you hear me? I want to confirm if you can hear me, Babajide.
I can hear you clearly. I hear you clearly.
Okay, good, great. Let us pause that a bit and go to the next topic, because the time allotted to that we actually exceeded, but we'll definitely visit our first topic. But before we go to the second topic, let me remind or bring to our notice a special announcement for our lovely audience who have been following us all year long. For the 61st Independence Day special edition on Issues with Jide, you get a chance to ask the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, any question of your choice, and it will feature virtually during the live show. How to do this? Record a 30-second video of yourself with a question you would like to ask Babajide Otitoju on Nigeria's Independence Day. Then send the video via WhatsApp to what you see on the screen, 0706 382 2184. 0706 382 2184. You never know, your question might be the one to be picked by him. So, Babajide, quickly, let's hurry to the second topic, which is Nigeria's borrowing. President Muhammadu Buhari is borrowing. It will be borrowing another $4 billion and 710 million euro loan from bilateral and multilateral organizations to fund the deficit in the 2021 budget, which, according to him, is to meet emerging needs and needs of some critical projects. Do you find this action plan expedient, Babajide?
I'm worried. I'm actually worried at the rate at which the president is borrowing money all over the place. People tell us we need money for infrastructure and all that. But there are consequences for constant borrowing, as we see. There are consequences for our unquenchable appetite to borrow money. And we're already seeing that because the budget of this year, our projection, our fiscal deficit projection for the year, we've exceeded half of it. Between January and May, we have exceeded half of our fiscal deficit projection for the year, because we budgeted, we have a fiscal deficit between January and May, which are 8% of our deficit projection. By the end of this year, we will have exceeded our projection in terms of fiscal deficit. We will have exceeded our projection by the end of this year. If between January and May we have already exceeded half of end revenue, as we are chasing fund what the stimulus. As things stand now, we are owing about 35.4 trillion. And things are not improving because the foreign direct investment is not coming in, and we have a very low tax base. So where do we find the money? economists are saying that we should do our best to improve our tax base so that tax to GDP ratio would improve. GDP ratio is a challenge. We have always warned that revenue, our capacity to borrow does not match, our capacity to pay does not match our so debt to revenue ratio for us is around 98%. Debt to revenue ratio is around 98%. What this means is that we will eventually even find it difficult to pay. We will then need to even be spending some of the money that we have borrowed to even service our debt. Debt servicing is making it difficult for us to find enough money to even address the infrastructure needs as enumerated in the budget, as projected in the budget. We just simply need to do something about revenue. We can't remain the way we are. Tax base has to expand. We have to expand our tax base so that revenue can come in. Everyone is telling the president that this pension from borrowing money has to be addressed. Even the man who heads the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, he has also joined others to say, look, we can't continue to borrow in this manner. I remember the WTO president, Okonjo-Iweala, also saying the same thing. I remember the African Development Bank president, Akinwumi, also saying the same thing. We are owing so much, and it has to sometimes look at this.
Right.
And ask themselves the question, is it to take fresh loans? The money, if your revenue cannot support payment, it will then mean that a big chunk of your budget in the into my concern, because right now even some of the infrastructure projects will be badly affected by our desire to pay these creditors. Sometimes we have to go and take from the foreign reserves because all these debts are denominated in foreign currency. We have to go to the foreign reserve, take some money to pay. It's not sustainable at all. Absolutely. I agree with Dr. Doyin that it's not sustainable.
We have many questions waiting for you to be answered on our YouTube channel. People are dropping their questions. And I think someone is interested in our first topic, which is that of Mr. Sunday Igboho, the 20 billion Naira awarded for damages. He says, Mr. Biko, this is from Moses Oriade. He says, Mr. Biko, if at the highest level of the court of jurisdiction over this case, should the judgment against the federal government be upheld and this administration refused to comply, which is likely? I think he's just making comments. But he's trying to, another person, Moses Oriade, now ask, can another administration pay the damages? I don't seem to really understand the question. Do you?
Oh, his question is clear.
Right.
His question is clear. Government is a continuum. There are all kinds of judgment debts that the federal government have not been able to pay. They lose a lot of cases and damages get awarded against the federal government. But in most cases, they are unable to pay. But you see, government to court. just enough. But if a new government comes in, a new government may be well disposed to paying. So it all depends, because some of these things are political in nature. But you know, just as I said, the OD massacre that took place during Obasanjo's era, the federal government lost in court. So they are obligated now to pay aggravated damages to the victims of the OD massacre. This one too will add to the judgment debts that this government or the federal government has to pay in the final analysis. So government is a continuum. Government has to pay. They must find the money to pay.
Another question. This is coming from O. Jacob, Peace Capital. It says the Justice Minister says the judgment will be appealed against. For me, the cost awarded by the court is too high. So he's negotiating on behalf of the federal government, saying 5 billion naira is okay. Does that resonate with you?
Well, it's left to the upper courts to look at what's awarded against the government and determine whether it's too high. Don't forget, it's also asking the courts to compel the federal government to apologize to him and return the items that they took away from his house, including his passport, his jewelry, his phones, and other things. So it's up to the upper courts to determine the right amount of money to pay. But if you look at the way similar cases had gone, you will be compelled to believe that even at the Supreme Court, the government will find it difficult to win this case.
Right. Okay, Biko, now let's go to another topic, our second topic, where Mr. O. Jacob, Peace Capital, this caught his attention. He wants to know, he said, I look into the list of items or projects. It says 15 from Southwest, 16 in the Northwest, other region share others. Let's keep borrowing for projects. That is the only way out. Is it speaking your mind?
No, at some point you have to stop, because money being spent to service debt is already too high. When it becomes so high, even a lot of the plans of government are listed in the budget to execute those plans, because you are setting aside nearly all of the revenue coming in to service debt. So you should be worried. I mean, I don't understand what the problem is with Nigerians. If an Okonjo Iweala, a world-class economist, can advise against continuous borrowing, if Dr. Akinwumi of ADB, whose bank is one of Nigeria's highest creditors, because between the World Bank and the African Development Bank, Nigeria I can say 35 managed development bank. If they are saying it is enough at this stage, that we need to address the problem, that we need to stop listening to them. We have to listen to them. Otherwise, we are postponing the evil day. I can tell you that in some states, like previous, they can't even fix infrastructure in those states. Government are going for bonds, government for foreign loans. Now, the irrevocable standing order ensures that once these states receive money from the federation account, there is so little left to address infrastructure concerns because you have to pay the creditors. You have to service your debt.
Right.
Like Osun State.
Okay, because
to us as the people that you can't keep without restraint. As 60 billion, you must service those debts. So you have so little left.
Right. So,
so there are implications for borrowing. People must realize that.
If you can hear me, BKO. Right. Apropos of what your line of thoughts, Senator representing Borno South, Alin Dume, also raised concern about the habitual borrowing of the governing party. It feels like the National Assembly are always kowtowing to the whims of the president, and that there is no clear plans on how these loans will be repaid. Does this tally with your thoughts as well?
Yes, that's my concern as well. And when this administration took over in 2015, our debt stood at $7.14 billion. It was $7.14 billion by June 30, 2015. Today is, let me see, today it has risen to 32.86 billion, which represents 350% rise. Anyone should be worried about that. Anybody should be worried about that. Anyone should be worried about that.
Right. Let me go back to our YouTube channel. We've got questions.
300.
Babajide, if you can hear me, so that I can bring this question. Mr. Fabian Keize says, this is on Sunday Igboho. He said the president has been described as a man of integrity countless times by supporters. Why does he disobey court orders?
But in the case of Sunday Igboho now, we cannot say he has disobeyed court order. In fact, they've done the right thing by saying that they were going to appeal. So it won't be right to say that they are disobeying court order in this case. They serve notice that they will appeal, which is the right thing to do. So let them appeal. Let's see what happens at the level of appeal. I don't think it's right to say they're disobeying court order.
Kudos to you for always making yourself available on the program.
Our debt grew from 32.91 billion in December 2020 to 35.465 billion by June 30, 2021. It's a matter for real concern.
Right.
The matter for 32.91 trillion naira to 35.465 trillion, just in a matter of 6-7 months.
All right.
About.
All right, so BKO, let me quickly squeeze this in, and that will be our last question from our YouTube channel. Koyejo Sunday said, BKO, did you believe in this government? It's just like an open question, some way.
Yeah. Yeah. He said, do I believe in the government?
Yes, that is the question. I exactly really don't know what he means, but maybe he's trying to say generally, whatever the government says as regards borrowing or saying that we are going to do such and such, do you believe in their words and line of actions?
Not all the time. Sometimes I believe, sometimes I do not believe. I'm a journalist. I process the actions of government, and then I take a stand. I have been saying repeatedly that I'm worried about our debt to GDP, our debt to revenue ratio, but it can be deceitful, can be really deceptive. In our case, we are not earning enough revenue. All the projections that we make in the budget every year, we don't meet those projections. Yet we continue to borrow money all over the place. There are implications for this. A time will come when you will need a good chunk of your revenue to fix infrastructure, to solve problems. But you will find that increasingly you are spending so much of that money servicing debt. That is the danger in unrestrained borrowing. And that is what Kunjo Uwela and Akiwumi have told us we need to do something about. Now, the man who heads the President's Economic Advisory Committee has also said the same thing, that we need to do something about our tax base instead of constantly borrowing money, because we really do not have the revenue to support this this unusual appetite for borrowing. So I do not support the government in every way. Sometimes I support them, sometimes I do not.
Absolutely. All right, absolutely, Babajide. Well, as we wrap, let me remind our audience again, we say thank you for watching, but then is a special announcement for our lovely audience who have been following us all year long. For the 61st Independence Day special edition on Issues with Jide, that's about in a fortnight's time, you get a chance to ask the maestro himself any question of your choice, and it will feature virtually during the live show. How do you do this? How do you participate? Record a 30-second video of yourself with the question you would like to ask Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Then send to our WhatsApp number. The number is 0706 382 2184. You can see it on the screen. 0706 382 2184. You never know, your question might be the one picked by him. Well, special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses, as always. And thank you to our audience for joining on every edition. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, TVC News. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. And that's all we have for you. We say special thanks to you, everyone, for watching. My name is Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye now.